Why is Craig Fitzgibbon a better option than John Morris?
I can't answer that.
Look at me. Look, the club has put out for some time, Shane Flanagan spoke on foxsports.com today and Triple M, saying that the club has been putting out that they're finding it hard to attract players to the club with John Morris as head coach.
Who's following Craig
I reckon it's as black and white.
How can you sign players when you can't tell them that you'll be coaching there next year?
I get that.
He is trying to sign the lock forward, Toby Rudolph. Desperate to sign him. Toby said, I don't know if you're coaching.
But haven't they basically frozen Bomber Morris out of the negotiations anyway? Darren Mooney looks after it all.
I just don't agree with that argument.
Got much to do with it. The power brokers at Cronulla have clearly taken the view.
The who? The power brokers. Who are they, by the way?
Well, Steve Mace is the chairman. Yep. We discussed him on the program last week. And Dino Mezzatesta, you gave a bake, is the CEO.
Yeah, because I think this is being well and truly overthought, over-designed by a couple of blokes who haven't been in the job all that long. You've got a guy here who's seemingly doing a great job, being given a bit of a tough ask coming into a club that had a head coach previously suspended, some huge personalities, less money on the salary cap than all the other clubs because of the fines.
Let me ask you this, Ben.
Jimmy.
Let me ask Ben this, please, Buzz. Can John Morris guide Cronulla to a premiership, in your opinion?
Based on what I'm seeing right now with the right roster, he's got them heading in the right direction. And when you're on a board, there's really only one KPI that you want from your head coach. Is he advancing the program? And I think everybody was surprised at how well the Sharks have been playing this year, which says to me that he knows how to coach. And more than anything, if you're a player wanting to come to a club, better than the reputation of the head coach, you want to see that the club is aligned from the chairman through to the CEO to the head coach. But this would be a red flag for me, knowing what John Morris has done, how long he's been in that system. If I'm the head coach coming in, I'm worried.
Jimmy, I'll say this, and I gave the board a rap last week for their financial management in tough times. There's absolutely no stability, though, off the field, and since 2017, the year after they won the grand final, Lyle Gorman's been sacked, Barry Russell's been sacked, Richard Munro has been sacked, Dino Mezzatesta then puts it, so it's 4 CEOs. The coaches, Flanagan, Morris is now gone, another new coach, Fitzgibbon, General Manager of Football, Phil Moss, sacked, Recruitment Manager, Grant Jones, sacked. When is this going to stop, mate? When are they going to be just happy, stabilise and build on what Morris has done and brought in 12 rookies who have all, like the fullback Will Kennedy, like Rudolph at lock, they're really, really exciting footy players.
I would get it if John Morris is being traded out for someone that's won a comp, that knows what success looks like. But the truth of it is, Craig Fitzgibbon has got a lot of raps. And
he's part of winning 3 comps. I know he's only an assistant coach.
But he's an assistant coach.
At the Roosters.
I get it.
It's not like he's coming out of Canterbury Bankstown or a system that's poor. He's been cutting his teeth under Trent Robinson.
But there's been a lot of assistant coaches come out of the Melbourne Storm under Craig Bellamy that haven't gone on to bigger and better things.
There's been plenty that have as well.
It doesn't always work that way. But if you've got someone in your system that's seemingly doing a pretty good job under tough circumstances, that knows where all the bodies are buried, knows where all the skeletons are, then that gets you runs on the board. Because these are all the things that Craig Fitzgibbon and Cameron Ciraldo have to find out over the next couple of years.
There is a little bit of talk that John Morris flips and flops with his decision making. One week he's going this way, next week he's going that way, and it's caused a little bit of confusion with the players and that. Now, I don't know if that's right, but that's what's been relayed to me as one of the reasons they want to look at it. That part of, while he has done a good job of managing the club in what was some trying circumstances, there's the belief there that he's still not fully formed as a head coach, that he still would be a very good assistant, and he's probably a few more years away from polishing up as
Candy, who made that decision that he's flipping and flopping, as you say? I've spoken to you before about this, that there is no football nous on that board to make those sort of decisions.
I think the issue, sorry to cut you off, Buzz, I think part of the problem, the way it's been explained to me, is that John gets asked for his view on player negotiations and which players he believes should be re-signed, how long the contract should be, all that sort of thing. But then that messaging is getting confused. John's telling the players one thing and the football committee another. That's the way I've heard it.
But at the same time, you're saying he hasn't got responsibility for the roster. It's been given to someone else.
He gets a say, but Darren Mooney ultimately is the person in charge of designing the Cronulla roster rolling forward.
Can I be honest though? Like, who's coming to the club off the back of Craig Fitzgibbon being signed? Like, I just don't see there being immediate uplift because the Cronulla Sharks are still going to have to pay the right money to get the right players to come to that organisation.
Yeah, that's true. But
and I don't know who's out there that's going to turn around.
Fitzgibbon does have a good reputation. He does. He has a good reputation, and for some years now, every time a job's become available, he's been sounded out.
He's knocked back two head coaching gigs in the last 12 months.
I'm not saying he hasn't been in demand.
Yeah.
And this is not a criticism of Craig Fitzgibbon.
I think he'll be able to attract players, Ben. I think given his gravitas and standing in the game, he's part of the New South Wales Origin setup at the moment. As we touched on a minute ago, he's won several premierships.
Well, you know
with
what,
the
James?
Roosters.
He's going to have $3 million or more to
Correct.
spend where John Morris didn't have a penny.
That's true, but
You know,
that's true.
That's why I feel for John Morris. I
we
really
all feel for John Morris.
What
He's
I've
done a
admired
superb
about him,
job.
Kenty, more than anything else, he's had a difficult roster to manage, with the likes of Josh Dugan and the likes of Andrew Fafita, and as Hook will tell you when he was at Penrith, when he comes on, Matt Moylan. You know, these aren't easy guys to coach, but they've stuck their heads down for him. They've made the finals 2 years in a row. They should have beaten Canberra this year, and I think they would have hung on the other day if against the Roosters if Wade Graham and Dugan had stayed on the park. They didn't. It was a costly loss. But you know what? That result didn't mean a thing. He was gone. They've been talking to Bellamy since November, and they've been talking to Serraldo and Fitzgibbon for several months.
But Buzz, they also haven't been a top 8 side since 2019.
I can't argue with that. I can't argue with that.
Took Shane Flanagan a while to get going before he won a comp.
Yeah, I get that.
So sometimes it takes patience from the people above the coach so that they come together, they all get on the same page. I just would like to think that John Morris was given every bit of support that's going to come the way of Craig Fitzgibbon when he finally arrives at the club.
The difference with the Fitz is the Roosters have got such a good system that Sam Walker and Joseph Suwali wanted to start their careers on their pathway. That won't happen at Cronulla. Then he's not going to pick up kids like that. He's not going to pick up kids like Craig Bellamy. When Melbourne Storm won the grand final in 2000... No, can I just finish this?
No new coach. No new coach. You're comparing a club that's about to sack a coach or let a coach go with premiership winning clubs.
What I'm saying is, Kenny, I don't think you can buy a premiership. The Broncos have shown you can't buy a premiership.
That's true. And whoever walks into Cronulla is going to walk into a much better situation than Trent Barrett walked into this year. You don't go into clubs as a new coach because the club's flying. There's generally a reason why the bloke who was there before has been sacked, and that's just part of taking over and part of what you've got to rebuild from. What they want at Cronulla and what, you know, it's the old adage that if you make a mistake, make it at 100%. And Craig Fitzgibbon comes in, and the one thing I think Cronulla are sure of is that whatever Craig Fitzgibbon does as coach, he'll be sure of. And I think that that's not what they're seeing in their head coach at the moment.
And to
that's
your
what
point,
they say. Like I said, and it pains me to say this because I really like John Morris.
Everybody does.
He's a
good human being.
But I don't want to look like I'm out there sort of slippering him as he's on the way up. But that's just what's getting relayed out of the club as they try to, in some ways, fight to defend the other side of the argument, which...
Have they told Craig Bellamy they've dropped off, by the way? Have they told Craig Bellamy they're not interested now?
No.
Well, you're well connected down there, aren't you?
I don't think they have. Right. So I spoke to Craig last week, and Craig was still saying that the offer's there on the table.
Surely if he was going to
I don't think he will either, but did they call it off? You know, I just can't understand. I've spoken about the instability at the club. I think they've been all over the shop for the last 4 or 5 years. They need to find a coach. They need to back the coach. They need to settle down and... yeah, return home to Shark Park and win some.
Well, they are going to back your coach, just not this one. They're going to back the next one.
Well, that's
starting from now.